Read. Towards a Softer World, Yarn Bombing.
Good evening. My name is Magda Sayeg. I'm a textile artist, most widely known for starting the yarn bombing movement. Have you heard of yarn bombing? It is taking knitted or crocheted material out into the urban environment. You may think that it's similar to graffiti. Unlike graffiti, however, yarn bombing doesn't damage structures or the natural landscape. It is also temporary and removable. Some people worry that yarn bombing is not legal. That's technically true, but no one has ever given me any trouble because yarn bombs look very innocent. Besides, most artists today do yarn installations with permission from property owners or even at their request. When I started this over 10 years ago, I didn't have a word for it. I didn't have any ambitious ideas about it, and I had no grand expectations. All I wanted to see was something warm, fuzzy, and human on the cold gray steel things that I looked at every day. So I wrapped a door handle. I call this the alpha piece. Little did I know that this tiny piece would change the course of my life. People's reactions were great. It intrigued me, and I thought, what else could I do? Could I do something in public that would get the same reaction? So I wrapped the stop sign pole near my house. The reaction was wild. People would park their cars, get out of their cars, stare at it, and take pictures of it. I was really excited, and I wrapped every stop sign pole in the neighborhood. And the more that I did, the stronger the reaction. This was the point when I became fascinated by yarn bombing. I found my new passion, and the urban environment was my playground. I was very curious about this idea of enhancing the ordinary, the boring, even the ugly. And I tried not to take away its identity or its functionality, but to give it a well-tailored suit out of knitting. This was fun for me. It was really enjoyable to take boring objects and make them come to life. I could have laughed and let it pass, but I didn't. I wanted to take it seriously. I wanted to analyze it. I wanted to know why I was letting this take over my life, why I was passionate about it, and why other people were reacting so strongly to it. And I realized something. We all live in this fast-paced world, but we still crave something that's relatable. I think we've all become dull by our overdeveloped cities that we live in. Traffic signs, advertisements, and giant parking lots, and we don't even complain about that stuff anymore. So when you come across a stop sign pole that's wrapped in knitting, which seems so out of place, you gradually, weirdly find a connection to it. That is the moment. That is the moment I love, and that is the moment I love to share with others. So, at this point, my curiosity grew. It went from decorating the fire hydrants and the stop sign poles to thinking about what else I could do with this material. Could I do something large-scale and more widespread? That's when the double-decker bus project happened. This changed everything for me. Up to that point, I hadn't wrapped anything so big in knitting. I spent many weeks collecting materials and then took all the materials to London. I was given only 3 days to finish the project. It was very stressful, but I was able to finish it. The result was really satisfying. Suddenly, I began witnessing something interesting. People from all over the world started yarn bombing. It had reached global status. Though I started it, I certainly don't own it anymore. And I know this because I have traveled to certain parts of the world that I'd never been to, and have stumbled upon stop sign poles that were wrapped up. These experiences have shown me the hidden power of this craft, and have revealed that there is a common language I have with the rest of the world. It was through this common hobby that I found a connection with people whom I never thought I'd have one with. So, as I tell my story today, I'd also like to convey to you that hidden power can be found in the most ordinary places, and we all possess skills that are just waiting to be discovered. If you think about our hands, these tools that are connected to us, and what they're capable of doing, building houses and furniture, and painting giant murals, it's funny that most of the time we're just holding a remote control or a cell phone. And I'm totally guilty of this as well. But what would happen if you put those things down? What would you make? What would you create with your own hands? People may have thought I was a master knitter when I began yarn bombing, but I actually had no idea how to knit. Nonetheless, I did something interesting with knitting that had never been done before. I wasn't supposed to be an artist in the sense that I wasn't formally trained to do this. I majored in math actually. So, I didn't think I'd ever do this, but I also know that I didn't stumble upon it. And when this happened to me, I held on tight, I fought for it, and I'm proud to say that I'm a working artist today. So, as you ponder your future, remember that it might not be so seamless, and one day you might be as bored as I was and knit a door handle to change your world forever.
Think outside the box. New types of graffiti. If you thought graffiti was limited to spray paint, think again. Reverse graffiti. There's hardly a kid who hasn't drawn something onto a dirty car window. We all have done it. Sometimes we wrote short messages with simple pictures such as smiley faces, flowers, or puppies. However, we probably didn't know that we were actually doing a type of street art called reverse graffiti. Reverse graffiti is the generic term for creating temporary images on walls or other surfaces by removing a layer of dirt from the surface. This is also known as clean graffiti. It is perhaps the most environmentally conscious form of street art, as well as the most temporary. Its artistic tools are cleaning supplies such as water, soap, pressure cleaners, and sometimes even fingers.
Moss graffiti. As people become more environmentally aware, the idea of making living, breathing graffiti has become an exciting outlet for graffiti artists. One of those ideas is moss graffiti, also called eco-graffiti or green graffiti. Moss graffiti replaces spray paint, paint markers, or other such toxic chemicals and paints with a paintbrush, and moss paint that can grow on its own. It can also be considered another form of guerrilla gardening. The steps of making moss graffiti are as follows. First, gather up as much moss as you can find or buy. Second, wash the moss to get as much soil out of the roots as possible. Third, make the moss paint. You can make it by mixing water, yogurt, and sugar with the moss. Fourth, pour the mixture into a bucket. Fifth, use a paintbrush to apply the moss paint to the surface on which you wish your design to grow. Then, wait and watch your moss graffiti grow. Gather up moss. Wash the moss. Make the moss paint. Pour the moss paint. Apply the moss paint to a wall. Wait and watch.